Member for Aruca Lopino.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing me and giving me the opportunity to contribute in this debate. We have been at this for quite some time. And I don't propose, Mr. Speaker, to breach the standing orders on relevance, but to constrain my contribution to an aspect of the supplementation that, of course, will be of interest to the people of Trinidad and Tobago and my constituents of Aruca Lopino. Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking the constituency of Aruca Lopino for electing me for a second term to represent their interests in the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And I note, Mr. Speaker, that some of my colleagues opposite, they try to make fun about the margin of your victory and what have you. But Mr. Speaker, a win is a win, and licks is licks. Defeat is defeat. So they got licks, Mr. Speaker, in 2020. They got licks in 2025. And I want to put them on notice. It will be more fire in 2030. More fire in 2030. And Mr. Speaker, I want to give them, well, it has some, Mr. Speaker, they have to run from a seat to another way. It have some of them, Mr. Speaker, they couldn't even represent, they can't even go back to the seats that they represented, they have to run down. But, you know, it's good to have them here, they are distinguished colleagues. And it doesn't matter if you're playing musical chairs with parliamentary seats, you know, they're good members.
Was making his contribution about relevance, and your promise to me that you weren't going to breach the standing orders on relevance.
Because they're enjoying this.
So, Mr. Speaker, you know, at 10:37, you know, we have to try and be alive to the issues in this house, and sometimes, you know. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you find I look younger than Michael Hooley. Mr. Speaker, let me start by also recognizing the stirring contribution of my colleagues from Diego Martin West, the Honorable Hans Devines, my colleague from Laventille West, the Honorable Kareem Marcel, and as well as my colleague from Malabar Mausika, the Honorable Dominic Romain. And because it's their maiden contribution, and I must say, when young people come forward and offer themselves to public service, and you sit and you admire the passion at which they carry about themselves, the professionalism, Mr. Speaker, I must say that Trinidad and Tobago is in good hands. Good hands. No pun intended to my colleague from Diego Martin West. And I look forward to the contribution of my colleague from Laventille East Mover, the Honorable Christian Birchwood. Mr. Speaker, during the course of this debate over the last 2 days, there are some troubling moments for me as a member of Parliament. I don't wish to dwell too much on it, but just more or less to make a marker and highlight some of the concerns that I personally would have taken note from members of my colleagues opposite. Mr. Speaker, I listened to the contribution of the Honorable Attorney General. And during his contribution, I must say that an Attorney General as titular head of the bar has to be very cautious in the way that they carry about and execute their duties and their public utterances, especially in the parliament, because citizens are listening to them. And during his contribution, Mr. Speaker, when the Honorable Attorney General could point in my direction as Member of Parliament for Aruka Lopino and point in the direction of the Leader of the Opposition, Member of Parliament for Arima, and point in the direction of the Honorable Member for Diego Martin Northeast, and my colleague from Port of Spain North St. Anne's West, and say that you are my enemies, pointing in our direction and saying that you are our enemies, my enemies. And the way in which it was done, in the context of his contribution, Mr. Speaker, I must say that it troubled me deeply, because at the end of the day, we are colleagues opposite. And I do not see any one of my colleagues sitting on the other side as my enemy. We might be colleagues and we might be opponents politically. But when an Attorney General can point to members opposite and speak in this way, it troubles me deeply. And I want to put my colleagues in this House, especially those on this side, and the listening audience, pay attention. Pay attention. Because, Mr. Speaker, all of us, before sitting in this Parliament, and those who sit in the Cabinet, Mr. Speaker, we took an oath of office to discharge our duties without malice or ill will, fear or favor. Malice or ill will, fear or favor. And we must be very aware that our sworn duty is to the Constitution and the law of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And what I saw from the Honorable Attorney General was nothing but malice and ill will. Mr. Speaker, I move on. And this is what he said. Not only us as his, and this is his contribution in this House. And this is what I'm referring to, unfortunately. Because it has absolutely nothing to do, Mr. Speaker, with the supplementation. But he stood and he was allowed to point to members opposite. And he said, who are his enemies? And he proceeded to say, I am coming for you. I am coming for you. I am coming for you.
And he did say as well, he will go to war. He did also say,
Mr. Speaker, that's the end on this point, because I don't want to breach the standing order, but I want to put a marker here tonight. This is someone who has the distinguished career of a vote of no confidence by the Law Association for interfering in the operations of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And therefore, when he stands in this Parliament, a stranger to this Parliament, not an elected member, pointing to members opposite and said, I'm coming for you, I'm coming for you. I want to tell the Honorable Attorney General that the Lord is my shepherd, and there is nothing I shall fear. And no amount of threat in this House, none whatsoever, Mr. Speaker, will put fear in the way that I conduct my duties on behalf of my constituents and on behalf of the good people of Trinidad and Tobago. I will fear none of it. And if he comes here because he has some rage or some vendetta, here is not the place, because the PNM will stand against him. And we will go from corner to corner, and we will stand against tyranny. in this country. We will have none of it, Mr. Speaker. Absolutely none of it. It is not the way that an Attorney General ought to conduct himself. Absolutely not the way. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I heard from my colleagues opposite during their contribution, and I took note of it. I need no help. I think that came from my colleague from Tabakit. I am the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much. Curriculum and Foreign Affairs. Quote. And then another one shouted, "You are not God's gift." And I quoted, "to financial brightness." Another one shouted, well, the Attorney General in this debate, "I am in war with you and I'm coming for you. We don't need," and then another one shouted, another colleague shouted here, "We don't need your advice." Mr. Speaker, we have a constitutional role to play, whether or not they like it or they do not like it. And that is going to be discharged without fear or favor, malice or ill will. And if they don't want to take our advice, then they're up. That is their business. That is their right, Mr. Speaker. But the opposition will come here in the parliament of this country and do what it must do in the discharge of its duties to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We don't care. We don't need you and this and carrying on in this very aggressive way and what have you. Mr. Speaker, we understand it. The election is over. Time to get down to business. And therefore, I want to tell my colleagues opposite who would have made those statements in their contribution that you will soon learn that when you are managing a complex society like Trinidad and Tobago, malice, vengeance, and retribution will get you nowhere. And one day, you shall fall on your sword. One day. Breaks. Breaks. Let me tell you this. Mr. Speaker, let me tell my colleagues opposite, I sleep comfortably at nights. I sleep comfortably at nights. And Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you this. I enjoy public service. And I believe all of us, if we take the time to do what we must do, to take this opportunity to impact lives positively, we may not satisfy everyone.
Mr. Speaker,
it is not possible to satisfy everyone.
I hate to interject, but I rise on Standing Order 48-1, please, Mr. Speaker.
So suffering from the same complaint you made against the member for Tabakit. So skip along a little bit, shall we?
Thank you, Mr.
Same
Speaker.
complaints. Let's skip along.
Mr. Speaker, on that point, I just ended on the point, Mr. Speaker. I'll skip along. Yes. I'll skip along, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, the work that we do here, we must take every opportunity to impact lives positively. I have done it in the last parliament, and I will do it in this parliament. Whether it is in government or whether it is in opposition, we will discharge, and I will discharge my duty. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Public Utilities would have been allocated a total sum, from my estimation, I am subject to correction, I think of $489.4 million. Quite a sizable amount of money, $500 million. Quite a lot of money. And in that total supplementation, Mr. Speaker, $9.4 million is for the Trinidad and Tobago Postal Corporation, and a total of $480 million for the Water and Sewerage Authority. And you look at it, it's clear we have done it over the last 4 years, nothing to argue. That entire $480 million, my colleagues opposite realize, is to pay salaries, wages, COLA, cost of living, all these things. $480 million. Mr. Speaker, it is very interesting that $480 million in a supplementation under this headline item. The obvious question one might ask themselves is, how is that going to, if a government is supplementing an allocation by $480 million, how is that going to improve the supply and the service to the citizens and raise our standard of living? Because by all means, Mr. Speaker, it's $480 million. But Mr. Speaker, it's $480 million that is going to go for the payment of wages and salaries. I am hoping that the Minister of Public Utilities, my colleague from Couva South, in his response will perhaps tell us, with the additional $480 million, how much that is going to increase the subsidy for the Water and Sewerage Authority. But from my rough calculation and recollection, I think it will be somewhere in the region of $1.2 or $1.3 billion for the Water and Sewerage Authority. I'm subject to correction on that. But Mr. Speaker, what I want to draw the country's attention to on this particular issue of water and the subvention made to the Water and Sewerage Authority over the years, that the $480 million would be added to of similar subvention or allocation in the 2024 to 2025 fiscal year, which will bring WASA's wage bill to approximately $1.2 billion. And it has been like that for some time. $1.2 billion going for the payment of wages and salaries. Mr. Speaker, that is just wages and salaries. In WASA's operation, it costs us, the taxpayers, Mr. Speaker, approximately $600 or $700 million for the purchase of desal water. So you have $1.2 billion in wages and salaries, and then you have $600 or $700 million in the purchase of desal water, which you pay for significant sums, and it is sold at a subsidized rate to a great loss to the taxpayers of this country, Mr. Speaker. So that is the purchase of desal water, approximately 40 million gallons of water on a daily basis, $1.2 billion in wages and salaries, Mr. Speaker. And then you have its power supply, cost to TNTech, maybe $200 million a year, because all of these plants are operating on a 24/7 basis, Mr. Speaker, booster stations and what have you. You understand, water treatment plants, they have to function on a 24/7 basis. So you're talking about $200 million to TNTech. And materials and supplies, Mr. Speaker. Another item that cost us, the taxpayers, over $100 million or more. I'm talking about water treatment, chlorine, and all of these things to treat groundwater, to treat surface water, and what have you. Mr. Speaker, you are looking at a total operation to supply water to Trinidad and Tobago somewhere in the region of over $2 billion or $2.3 billion. Mr. Speaker, the revenues from the authority is somewhere in the region of $600 or $700 million. So the revenues from WASA is not even sufficient to pay or to meet its wage bill of $1.2 billion. And that has been a situation with us as a country for a very long time, colleagues. A very long time. And every time you go to an international bank to discuss and to negotiate a loan to undertake critical infrastructure upgrade and capital projects for the authority, they tell you, we are willing to give you the money, but you see this operation that you are running there, you need to fix it. You need to fix it because it is unsustainable. The time is going to come where you cannot pay for it. And then if that is the case, you will not be able to pay and to repay our loans. It has been like that, Mr. Speaker, for well over 20 years. Straddling all governments, UNC, PNM, NAR, all of everybody. But unfortunately, the issue of water in this country has been politicized for far too long. And I can tell you, as Minister of Public Utilities, I would always tell the public servants in the ministry, as well as the senior technocrats of the authority, that where water is concerned, there ought not to be politics, because regardless of wherever you are in this country, regardless of whatever your race, you are entitled to an efficient supply of water. Mr. Speaker, it has not been an easy undertaking, but I served in that capacity for 5 years, and I gave my best. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, I am proud of the many communities who got water from the very first time in PNM and in UNC constituencies and in Tobago. All over, they can say what they want. They can say what they want, Mr. Speaker. They can go on social media and say what they want. That with the resources that are available to me, and we were able to make and positive impact to the lives of many communities. One of those communities was in that touched me because, Mr. Speaker, I tell you this, you go around the country and there are some stories, Mr. Speaker, that would remain with you for a very long time. And one was in the constituency of Tobago. And in that constituency, Mr. Speaker, please protect me from them. Mr. Speaker, the cross-talk, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, a small community, about 300 or 400 people, and I recall when we constructed that booster station and put a major transmission line, Mr. Speaker, I saw tears flowing from the eyes of many of the people who live there. Is that a UNC, is that a PNM constituency? I never expect PNM to win the seat. And then there's another place they call Cotton Hill in that same constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm just raising that to show you, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, and the billions of dollars that we are supplementing WASA, the billions of dollars, the $480 million I'm referring to is a very serious point I'm raising here, Mr. Speaker. None of it is to build a booster station. None of it is to replace an aged transmission line. None of it is to construct a major water treatment plant or the drilling of a well to improve the supply of water. All of it, Mr. Speaker, is to pay wages and salaries. It's recurrent expenditure. And Mr. Speaker, in 2020, there was a UNC government in power. Not 2020, sorry, in 2012. Just the point I want to make. And this issue, Mr. Speaker, of that large subvention faced a previous government during the period 2010 and 2015. And the UNC government went to the IDB for a loan to increase wastewater expansion in Trinidad and Tobago, a very serious issue. And when they went to the IDB informed the then government that you need to undertake a major transformation of that authority to get access to resources. Because if you don't do it, that situation there is unsustainable, where billions of dollars are being spent inside of there. and the state of the country's water supply is going down, and it's a downward spiral. I see my colleague here from Caroni Central is looking at me with a smirk. Mr. Speaker, when the then government went to the IDB, Mr. Speaker, I'm reading from a 2012 document produced by the government of the day in 2012 to the IDB to get access to financial resources to expand wastewater supply in this country. And when the IDB laid down its condition, because it's not free money, you don't walk into the IDB and they tell you take $300 million or take $10 million US or something like that. They lay down strict conditionalities that you must follow in order to get access to these resources. And one of the conditions that they lay down for the government of the day is that you need to transform the Water and Sewerage Authority. Because despite the billions of dollars being spent in subvention, people weren't just getting an improvement in the supply of water. And in 2012, they produced a document, Mr. Speaker, proposed strategic organization restructuring plan for the Water and Sewerage Authority. In the first paragraph, rationalization of staffing at the authority. And this is not my document, this is not the PNM document, it's the UNC's document. And I'm not saying to throw any shade in it. I'm just putting it on the records of this House, Mr. Speaker, to show this country that if we have to get away from this perennial cycle of accusation over and over again, we will get nowhere. The Water and Sewerage Authority, and I quote the document, with the objective of meeting the goals of the government of Trinidad and Tobago in the water and sanitation sector, is beginning a 5-year capital investment program to improve its efficiency and effectiveness. WASA plans to invest more than $1.5 billion US to develop and rehabilitate assets. It will complement these investments with other reforms, such as the restructuring of the water utility and tariff increases. The UNC document. Restructuring of the authority and tariff increases. Not the PNM. To facilitate this initiative, the government of Trinidad and Tobago entered into an agreement with the Inter-American Development Bank in 2011 to undertake an upgrade of the wastewater infrastructure of the authority with an emphasis on strengthening and revitalizing the authority's technical, financial, and economic performance. In an effort to satisfy the condition for the release of funds, colleagues, for the release of funds, the authority was mandated, Mr. Speaker, to develop a strategic organizational restructuring plan so as to rationalize its staffing. And it continues. Proposed plan for the rationalization of staffing. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'll make use of my extra 50 minutes. I appreciate that. Talk about to continue the transformation of WASA into a customer-focused utility securing sector for all sectors, reduce costs in line with other water utilities and apply reasonable tariffs and charges, transform the work culture to one that is high performance, etc. And then, Mr. Speaker, it talked about the systemic analysis of the problem of overstaffing, and its solution is crucial to the financial viability of WASA. So in this 2012 UNC document, it is proposing to the authority, to the IDB, in order to get access to financial resources, and I quote, the systematic analysis of the problem of overstaffing and its solution is crucial to the financial viability of WASA. In fact, WASA's viability and financial sustainability are inextricably linked to the organization's manpower levels. Mr. Speaker, The outcome of this was that the UNC government was given a loan to the tune of millions of US dollars to undertake staff restructuring. Mr. Speaker, over 1,000 staff members participated in a voluntary visa program that was intended to reduce the staff to correct the same problem that we are faced with today in this supplementation, where $480 million is being supplemented to the authority. The same problem that existed in 2012 that they undertook to deal with, that they are going to reduce staff by 2,500 employees. Because you cannot have a situation where $480 million is being sent to an authority and all of it is going to pay staff, and you cannot rehabilitate assets, you cannot drill wells, and you cannot improve the supply of water, especially to unserved and underserved communities. Mr. Speaker, the outcome of that, because of bad politics and irresponsible politics, $500 million was accessed from the IDB to engage in a visa program where over 1,200 employees of the authority participated in a visa program, and as they left the authority, they entered through a back door. Over $400 million that we are paying today, and we cannot deal with this problem. And when we return, Mr. Speaker, to the IDB, to the acts, when we return in 2020, I'm talking, to get access to IDB resources again, Mr. Speaker, the same thing the IDB said. What is happening in the authority? You have failed to do so. We have made access to you for over hundreds of millions of dollars to fix this place. And you come in again for resources to improve the supply of water. And they said, produce a transformation plan, and that is the condition under which you will get access to resources. Mr. Speaker, as difficult as it was, we put together a transformation plan for the authority. The IDB was very convinced of it, and they gave us access to resources, a total loan envelope of $315 million, but the IDB is very cautious and say, listen, the total envelope is $315 million, but you're going to only have access to $80 million. First, show us how you could utilize the resources. And when the projects are completed, come back and we'll have a discussion with you. And we will make an assessment as to whether or not you are transforming the authority. And if you are not, then you will get no access to the resources. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to say that before I left that ministry, despite the rigid conditions laid down by the IDB, we got access to the $80 million loan facility, undertaking refurbishment of plants, drilling of wells, replacing aged infrastructure, all over Trinidad and Tobago, the construction of new water treatment plant in Goldsboro in Tobago, one in Santa Cruz, to redistribute water to unserved and underserved communities, Mr. Speaker. And before I left, the IDB indicated that never in the history of loans to the authority that within 2 years, almost 90% of the resources have been expended because of good financial management. They said, however, Mr. Speaker, that in order to get access to the resources, continued access to further resources, you need to undertake the transformation of the authority. Mr. Speaker, how much time do I have again?
I think you have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Quite enough. And Mr. Speaker, when I observed the transformation plan being ripped apart and smiling faces around the Honorable Prime Minister, because in her world, she would have achieved something great for her partners. I want to say that we perhaps might be heading back to 2012 again. And not only that, Mr. Speaker, but I wish the government well in their continued engagement with multilateral financial institutions with respect to accessing their resources to improve the supply of water to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because that same loan envelope is hinged upon a successful transformation plan that since 2012, the people of this country, governments in the past and government in the future, playing politics with water, engaging in all kinds of reckless negotiations with stakeholders who do not have the interests of the people of this country, but more selfish agendas to the detriment of so many communities all over. I wish them well, because at the end of the day, they will make not 1 cent available to you if you cannot show that you have a viable transformation plan to improve the supply of water to the authority and the people of this country. It is hinged on that. So when you rip it, you don't just rip a document. You rip work that was done not by politicians, but work that was done by technocrats within the authority, within the ministry, and stakeholders in the industry that has the potential to have an outcome that is going to transcend race, religion, geography, and politics. And anytime a government is serious about treating with this problem, I wish that the $480 million supplementation in this budget, a significant portion of it could have gone towards the improvement of the supply of water to the people of this country, the drilling of wells. And if you postpone doing it now one day, Mr. Speaker, some serious government with serious politicians that has the moral rectitude to do the work will have to take the hard and difficult decision outside of petty politics and do what must be done to ensure that this country has a reliable supply of water. Petty politics will not help it. It will delay the problem perhaps for now, but one day serious politicians and serious managers will have to make decisions, and sometimes it might be for our own and your own political detriment. But when you take that oath of office, Mr. Speaker, you have to make decisions, and you must have the moral rectitude to make decisions for the greater good of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, sometimes for your own political detriment. Sometimes to your own political detriment. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, as a young minister going into that ministry.
Mr. Speaker, I do apologize. 48-1, 55-1B as well too, please, Mr. Speaker.
No, I'll allow the member to finish. He just has a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is not an easy ministry. Many colleagues in the past played petty politics with it. But I want to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago and colleagues on this side and those opposite that to fix this problem, you need to keep your focus and do what must be done for the good of all citizens of this country. All citizens of this country. And Mr. Speaker, on that note, I thank you very much for my contribution.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
I listened carefully to the contribution from the member for Ruka Lupino. And one would have thought, having served in the position of Minister of Public Utilities before, that the member would have been able to identify areas in which successes were made. But instead, the member spent a lot of his contribution seeking to lecture the national community and the government about those who wish to play petty politics. But Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, the people of Kuva South, the people of Faizabad, the people of Urupuch East, the people of Urupuch West, and right next to me in the constituency of Siparia, the people felt the repercussions of petty politics because of the doings of members opposite. When they opened their taps and they had no water in their taps, in those areas, that was petty politics. When you had a minister, a former minister, who tells you what you need to do, but spent 5 years doing nothing, telling you that you need to fix the problem, but when they had the opportunity to fix the problem, they did not have the political will to serve communities and constituencies equally across the length and breadth of this country, then you know that they have no moral authority to stand and lecture us in terms of ripping up a transformation plan, which was meant to secure high-paying jobs for the PNM boys and girls inside of WASA, as opposed to coming up with a comprehensive strategic plan. Because, Mr. Speaker, I always believe when you have employees that know they have security of tenure, then you know that you get the greatest amount of productivity out of those employees. For 5 years, they held the necks of the employees of WASA in a proverbial noose. And that is why today the employees of WASA stand on the side of the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago under the leadership of the member for Siparia. And the member cherry-picked the areas of the transformation plan that the member wanted to speak about. But the member did not tell the full truth, that the reason why WASA employees had a serious disconnect and challenge with that transformation plan was that it did not seek to improve water production or water distribution. All it sought to do was secure jobs for PNM boys and girls, including general election candidates of the People's National Movement inside of WASA. And the member for Ruka Lupino cannot tell me that is not true, because one of those is very closely associated with the member for Ruka Lupino. And I will talk more about that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I go into that, I want to refer to an article in the Trinidad Express dated June 8, 2024. And Mr. Speaker, during that time, the debate on the Standing Finance Committee report of 2024 was taking place. But the Honorable Prime Minister at that time, the former member for Diego Martin West, stood right next to where I am right now, and he had this to say: "Leave her right there. Don't move her," he said, as he criticized the member for Siparia, who he said was fuming over everything the government did, hoping for a knockout punch. Today, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that the former member for Diego Martin West and the member for Portis Bay North, St. Anne's West, they got the knockout punch. They got the knockout punch, Mr. Speaker. And if that is not poetic justice, I don't know what is. Mr. Speaker, I have stood in this parliament time and time again, like many of my colleagues, in defense of the member for Siparia, having endured attacks, particularly from the member for Portis Bay North, St. Anne's West. And this is what the member for Portis Bay North, St. Anne's West used to say: "This one coming for your wicket, that one coming for your wicket." Well, Trinidad and Tobago took your wicket on April 28th. Trinidad and Tobago took your wicket on April 28. You will go down in history. You will go down in history as the shortest serving prime minister, unelected. And if that is not a political indictment from the people of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Speaker, then I don't know what is. Because on the fateful day of April 28, the people of Trinidad and Tobago took the wicket of the member for Portus Bay North St. Anne's West. Mr. Speaker, I will not stop there. I will not stop there because just yesterday, the member for Arima also took the wicket of the member for Portus Bay North St. Anne's West. But Mr. Speaker, I want to tell the honourable member for Arima, who in the debate wanted to talk about who playing prime minister. I want to tell the honourable member, when the raging bull bypassed you for Portus Bay North St. Anne's West, you had not one word to say in defense of your country and in defense of your party. Mr. Speaker, I want to tell the honourable member for Arima.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, 48-1.
I'm responding. The honourable member raised that in the debate.
I don't think I need to rule on that, do I? Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member, for 10 years, your silence has resulted in murder and it has resulted in mayhem. You went along for the ride, honourable member for Arima. You did not have the courage or the capacity to lead then, and you certainly don't have it now. You don't have it now. Mr. Speaker, 2 bills went through this House. 1 motion, absent, unscripted, and not present when those important matters that dealt with issues that impact children in this country, the member could not be found. Mr. Speaker, for 45 minutes to speak in this debate, the honourable member for Arima could not last. Instead, the member resorted to a prepared text from her handler, more than likely the member for Diego Martin Northeast, who kept prompting her at the desk. Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to say to the honourable member, you can run, but you cannot hide. You have to stand up and face the music at some point, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago will be the arbiters. And on the occasion of the Standing Finance Committee report being debated in this House, you have certainly been found wanting. Wanting. I want to tell the members, stop the laziness. Stand up, be present, turn up. Leadership is not delivering speeches on the economy prepared by the member for Diego Martin Northeast. That is not leadership. Stop hiding blindly behind the member for Diego Martin Northeast. Mr. Speaker, today we are being forced to pay for the expenditure that they committed to. And that is putting this entire debate in a nutshell. We, the members of the government, are being forced to pay for the expenditure that they committed to, but want to ask us where the money is coming from. They committed by under-budgeting and under-resourcing the Water and Sewerage Authority by $480 million, by $9 million for the Postal Services Corporation. Mr. Speaker, I heard several colleagues opposite talk about, well, why is the government raising this under-resourcing and under-budgeting, and where's the evidence of that? Mr. Speaker, when I spoke as an opposition member in the Standing Finance Committee debate on June 8, 2024, I raised the issue of under-resourcing and under-budgeting WASA, a critical component to national development, because I always say the Ministry of Public Utilities is one of those ministries that impact people most. It impacts them in their home and it impacts them in their pockets. Water, communication, electricity. And I raised this very issue at that time because the member, they say mouth open and story jump out. The member started his contribution, the honourable member for Aruka Lopino, started by saying, well, we are not new to this. This is a usual run-of-the-mill situation. That is what the member told this House. But in previous incarnations, when we have said to them in the Standing Finance Committee, not in the debate, in the committee, When I asked last year, remember, you did not budget $60 million in NIS contribution. And again, today we are in a situation where we have to supplement because of their under budgeting. There's a history and a pattern of this, Mr. Speaker. And the history and pattern of this is their contempt, scorn for WASA workers. That has always been their modus operandi. So their transformation plan had very little to do with water production and water distribution. What it had to do with was essentially cutting and sending WASA workers home so they can facilitate big ballooned salaries for a select few inside of WASA who they hand selected to give these big cushy jobs to. And when you talk about persons who receive salaries of $60, $70, $80, $100,000, it was in this executive management group, which again they hand selected, with P&M big boys and girls inside of that group, Mr. Speaker, that was the transformation plan that the member for Aruka Lopino spoke about. The member for Aruka Lopino could not tell us one well. The member for Aruka Lopino could not tell us one specific project. The member for Aruka Lopino certainly couldn't tell you how to find Separia, how to find Urpuch East, how to find Kuva South, because projects were not done in these areas. So when the member for Faisabad tells you about geographical discrimination, we know what geographical discrimination is. So the utter hypocrisy for the member to talk about we did not discriminate, meaning them did not discriminate on race and religion and so on. The people of the areas that we identified earlier, and many of these constituencies on the government benches can attest to the fact that for 10 years, Mr. Speaker, people opened their taps in many of these constituencies and never saw water for one day. Mr. Speaker, it requires political will. When I went into the Ministry of Public Utilities, I had the same staff at WASA, the same complement of staff at WASA under the member for Aruka Lopino was the same complement of staff that I inherited as Minister of Public Utilities. And I can tell you today, Mr. Speaker, in just 7 short weeks, water production and distribution is up across the length and breadth of this country. Mr. Speaker, unbeknown to me, at the Standing Finance Committee, when the member raised in a previous debate as well, that they had increased water production and water delivery across the country, 24/7 supply to 65%. WASA, on their own, did their own checks and put out the truth to the country, which was last year water production and distribution 24/7 was at 17%. When Mrs. Prasad Bissessa left in 2015, water levels in terms of water distribution to 24/7 supply of Trinidad and Tobago was at 74%. They brought it down to 17%. And that was not said by me. I see the member across shaking his head. That was not said by me. Mr. Speaker, I encourage the honorable member, go to the Joint Select Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure when WASA appeared before us in February of 2023. And your own employees at that time said at that Joint Select Committee that 17% of the country received our 24/7 supply of water. It wasn't the member for Separia that said that. It was not the member for Kuva South that said that. It was the employees of WASA under your watch, honorable member for Aruka Lopino, under your watch. Mr. Speaker, the member gave us a song and dance about the IDB loans. I can tell you without fear of contradiction that through the kindness of the member for Faisabad and the minister in the ministry, Senator Swarat Singh, we have already engaged the IDB. It was one of our first acts. So when the cabinet decided that we will rescind the former government's transformation plan, it wasn't out of spite and malice. It was understanding that they focused heavily on the human resources in terms of eliminating. And they were hoping, because every year they came and you ask them, why did you under budget and under resource? And that is on the Hansard member Faruka Lopino. It is on the Hansard where you told me WASA workers were going home. Right here in this house, you were sitting right there. It was pandemonium in this country for days that WASA workers were going home. And you held that guillotine over their necks. They couldn't get loans. They couldn't buy a house. They couldn't buy a car. And you want to know why employees were so happy to see you all go? The first day I went in WASA, I thought a rock star was passing through. They were applauding every office I passed, but it wasn't because it was me, Mr. Speaker. It was what our government represented, which was seeking the interest of workers in this country. And that is why when the member for the Brave and the member for Point Fortin stands up and speak in this house, they are speaking for Labour, and Labour has been a large component. And we have given the assurance through the Honourable Prime Minister. And that is why the Honourable Prime Minister said one of our very first acts is to ensure job security for those that deserve it. And therefore, I'm saying to you, Honourable Member Faruka Lopino, I inherited the same staff at WASA and the same staff at the ministry. But what is happening is that you are getting a greater degree of productivity because they can sleep better at night, they can get a mortgage, they can get a loan, and they understand that changes will come to the organization. There must be an evolution of this sector, Mr. Speaker. We have never been opposed to change. Of course, changes will have to come, but it cannot come at the expense of sending people home when you are bringing in a select group, paying them ballooned and inflated salaries because they wear the same party color as you. We will not tolerate that. We will stand on the side of workers. And that is what is contained in your transformation plan. It is there in black and white. Let me tell you, your colleagues, in the transformation plan, it said that 1,500 employees of WASA was earmarked to go once the RIC accepted the report of WASA. And let us not separate WASA from the former administration, because that was a strategy they tried a lot, Mr. Speaker, where they gave the country the impression, well, WASA was separate from them and TNTEC and TFCT was separate from them. Well, they were really separate because the minister was always absent. He took a very hands-off approach to the entire industry, and that is why we saw so many challenges, Mr. Speaker. But the transformation, had it gone through, would have seen 1,500 workers at WASA going home in the first tranche had they won the general election. That is there in the black and white for all to see. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, when the PSA stands with us, it is because we stand with WASA workers, understanding that you will get greater productivity out of the workers if they have job security, if you do a review of their job specs in terms of what role and function they will now play in terms of managing the authority in terms of water production and water distribution. They brought in a failed CEO from Barbados, Mr. Speaker, who had very little track record in terms of change management, in terms of changing out the authority. Instead, they were looking to pass the buck on to somebody else for why the transformation plan would have failed, because there was no political will to get it done. The member spoke about the IDB loans, and I mentioned Faisabad and the member in the Senate, Minister Swarat Singh. And we have already sat, so the fear-mongering coming from the member Faruka Lopino, well, the IDB loans might be in jeopardy, and they would want to know, well, what are you doing about transformation? We already have the evolution plan in terms of how we are going to restructure the organization, but how we are going to save the jobs of WASA workers. It is not going to be at the expense of sending workers home. And that is the fundamental difference between this administration and that one. While the member Faruka Lopino was busy hounding Lezama, we were ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that workers were able to keep their jobs inside of WASA. And I give you the commitment, Mr. Speaker, that while we protect
point
workers...
of order, 48-6.
Exactly.
Well, perhaps the member could change the word slightly, but you have to get the context in which you just accused. Hold on. In the context of the environment in which this debate has been conducted, you just accused the Attorney General of malice and ill will. I will ask the member, however, to substitute the word hounding, please. And perhaps use a more anodyne word.
Instead, Mr. Speaker, I would say unsubstantiated allegations that the honorable member has made against one Mr. Lazama. But Mr. Speaker,
Speaker, 48-6.
but that is in the public domain.
This is acceptable. This is not hounding. It's not attributing any improper motive to you. It's merely stating his opinion about unsubstantiated allegations in a very neutral way.
Mr. Speaker, in dealing with the WASA transformation plan under my colleague, the member for Rukul Lopino, the WASA transformation plan, the plan alone, Mr. Speaker, the plan alone costed taxpayers $13.4 million with the main recommendations. And here, what were the main recommendations, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, 1,500 monthly paid jobs to be made redundant. They were going home, Mr. Speaker. 1,200 daily paid jobs be made redundant. They were going home. And this was just in the first instant, Mr. Speaker, taking you to about 2,500 employees of WASA workers were going home in the first instance if they won the election in 2025. Mr. Speaker, they were intent on implementing an estimated $1 billion visa package. Mr. Speaker, the UNC government, led by the member for Sipara, we rescinded the Cabinet Subcommittee report on WASA and terminated the PNM WASA Transformation Plan. A review of the WASA Transformation Plan revealed the following. Under one Sheldon Batiste, who was the head of transformation, this gentleman was paid $1.8 million while no targets were set by WASA. There was no technical expertise questioned by the former deputy chairman of the WASA board, who was in charge of HR and so on. Then you had Collier Morrison Belgrave, who was a consultant, paid close to $500,000, engaged by a sole select non-competitive process for $1 million. An additional $500,000 added to the contract without documentation and billed to the CEO's office. And we'll speak a little bit more about that in a short while, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there was a company called DGNex, consultant to former WASA board, paid $2.3 million. Company is not even VAT registered. You hear that, what? Member for Barataria San Juan? Not even VAT registered. Mr. Speaker, in the tune of millions of dollars, a legal team was hired and paid $1.3 million in the last year alone. We're still compiling the bills that are coming in. And when I asked to see what were the invoices, what did the invoices say? There were no stipulations with respect to the legal work, Mr. Speaker. No legal opinion on any particular matter. All we got was for services rendered. Well, what was very strange was the names of the legal team. One, Russell Martino, which the member for Barataria San Juan spoke about. So remember, this is more than the $1 billion that you spoke about. But then you have the first gentleman, one Kerwin Garcia, who was probably spreading the gospel in WASA as well. So, Mr. Speaker, then we had another situation arise in WASA. When the government decided that we were rescinding the WASA transformation plan, I asked, could you give me a little bit more detail in terms of how they went about this? There was a setting up of a transformation office. I then asked, where is this office? Is it at WASA? Nobody could tell me where this office is. Later, I found out that they leased a building on Scott Bush Street for $3 million for 5 people to operate out of. When I started to ask the questions, then I got 2 resignations. I asked, well, where did these resignations come from? They said, well, the people who are working on the transformation plan, I said, but I've been asking for the names of these people for 2 weeks now. Why am I now getting resignations? So why don't they want to continue? Mr. Speaker, they could produce no work in terms of what they have been doing for the last 2 to 3 years. They can produce no documentary evidence of anything that has been done, Mr. Speaker. That entire water transformation office, Mr. Speaker, when you look at it, it was a slush fund. It was a slush fund, Mr. Speaker. And that takes me into another area. You see, on the general election hustings, I kept speaking about a campaign manager who got almost $25 million in contracts in the last 3 years in Wassa. But a campaign manager that belongs to the People's National Movement. And today I can prove it. Today I can prove it. $25 million in 3 years. Many of which was Soul Select. Many of which is being investigated now. But Mr. Speaker, days before the general election, there was a company that was awarded a $3 million contract, Soul Select. And the member for Ruka Lopino looks at me very puzzled, but I'm almost certain he's not really puzzled. The member, I'm certain, is not really puzzled. You see, Mr. Speaker, the EBC publishes your agents and your sub-agents when you file to be a candidate in a general election. So, a good Samaritan brought to my attention that, and I'll give you the date, Mr. Speaker. I'll give you the date. The date was the 14th of April, 2025. And this is what it read. Notice, election agents, and I did seek permission to display the document. Election agents and in 2025 parliamentary elections. So the member for Ruka Lopino would have submitted to, he would have submitted to the EBC, his agent and sub-agents. Under the sub-agents is one Kyle Williams. Well, the member for Ruka Lopino will be quite familiar with one Kyle Williams. You see, the member submitted this gentleman, and we all know you submit people who are known to you. You don't submit people who you don't know because they're acting on your behalf in a general election. They're going to the polling station, they collect the ballots, they observe the vote. So this person has to be very close to you. You have to know them intimately, Mr. Speaker, to put them as an agent or sub-agent. The member for Ruka Lopino, like all other 40 members of the House, as Barataria Sanwan is reminding me, would have had to sign for Mr. Williams to be his sub-agent. So it was published for all to see.
Would you like your other 15?
Yes, certainly. Mr. Speaker, but there's a company that has been awarded about $25 million in the last 3 years in Wassa, a lot of which I said was Soul Select, a lot of which was directed, I will not say by who, but it was directed to Wassa. Mr. Speaker, the name of the company is Obscene Construction Limited. And what is mind-boggling, what is frightening, startling, but very hypocritical on the part of members opposite, is that when you pull up the directorship for Obscene Construction, receiving $3 million Soul Select, 3.1 million awarded to Obscene by Wassa a few weeks before the general election, awarded by Soul Select. Mr. Speaker, Obsen Construction Limited can be found on the company's registry, with the director being one Kyle Williams, who is the sub-agent as published on the 14th of April as the sub-agent for the member for Aruka Lupino. Then he would have been the outgoing Minister of Public Utilities. But Mr. Speaker, it does not stop there. Mr. Speaker,
on a point of order.
it gets
Mr.
better.
Speaker, on a point of order, 48-6.
Well, I don't think the member is imputing for short reasons. I don't think there's any imputation there.
Mr. Speaker, 48-6, the member is imputing improper motives. The minister, Mr. Speaker, is not involved in these matters. So
Yes.
what is the relevance of it?
If you listen carefully to the member, he's not, well, right. So if you allow me to speak, I've allowed you to speak. If you allow me to speak, the member did not impute directly any motive to you. All the members said it was a directed contract. The member is drawing factual matters together and stringing those strands together. He's not drawing an inference, and the inference will be left up to whoever wishes to draw it. But the member is not drawing an inference. Carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they cannot handle the truth. They cannot handle the truth when we come with facts, and we have brought the evidence today in terms of why WASA and other state enterprises are in the position that they are in. So when we are being told, where will you get the money from? Had they cut out the waste mismanagement and excessive corruption under their tenure, Mr. Speaker, WASA would have been in a better position. I want to tell the member, $800 million in outstanding.
48-6. Mr. Speaker, 48-6. He is now aligning corruption to his statement that he made, Mr. Speaker.
He did not allege, the member did not allege corruption against you. There has been numerous allegations, all they traded back and forth. As a matter of fact, the member for Malabar Mausika compared the airport in Tobago to the Piaco corruption airport corruption. So it is not something you could seek refuge behind in the context of how this debate has been conducted. There has been a lot of leeway. There has been no allegation of corruption by this member or any member against you directly or indirectly. So there has been a lot of that going on. So carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, through you, Mr. Speaker, I'm certain that the next bit of information that I'll share will find favor with the member for Faizabad. You see, the member for Diego Martin Northeast, in his contribution, the honorable member sought to give the government advice by saying, do not engage in any reckless spending. Any reckless, crazy spending. Don't engage in that. That will cause the collapse of the economy. Mr. Speaker, if the honorable member had taken his own advice, then the Ministry of Public Utilities will not, and the Minister of Public Utilities will not be asked, which I'm being asked today, to sign off on expenditure incurred by the member for Diego Martin Northeast on the first day on the job. What? The first day on the job. The member told them he don't like the office. He don't like the uniform of the MTS workers, and I'll tell you how much it is costing the taxpayers. So when the member says, don't engage in any crazy expenditure, the member knows what he's speaking about, the member for Diego Martin Northeast, because the member himself engaged in crazy expenditure like a runaway horse when he got into public utilities for one day. The letter is dated, Mr. Speaker, March 18, 2025, which says, and I quote, on his assumption of duty, the Honorable Carl Mimbert, Minister of Public Utilities, reviewed key aspects of the accommodation at the Ministry of Public Utilities as it relates to the Minister and Permanent Secretary. Mr. Speaker, today I am being asked, where will the money come from? But the member only telling us half the story by giving us advice to say don't engage any reckless, wild, crazy expenditure, but committed this government to $1.3 million for his frivolity, his excess, Mr. Speaker, his arrogance, and his abuse, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but let me tell colleagues what it was for. What it was for, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the design fees cost taxpayers for a 30 by 30 office for the minister. $60,000 for design for a 30 by 30 office. $60,000. Mr. Speaker, the member wanted a new workstation which costed the country $40,000. The member then wanted, Mr. Speaker, paintings for himself, paintings for his technical advisor. Mr. Speaker, the painting for the minister costed the country. I'm not talking about the painting to paint the wall, eh? You know this government, they loved paintings. They bought all these Casabon paintings. The former prime minister was a connoisseur of paintings and art. Remember, for Diego Martin Northeast apparently has the same sort of fetish. Mr. Speaker, for the minister's office, the painting there costed the country. I just want to make sure I'm getting it correct, Mr. Speaker. Yes, here it goes, Mr. Speaker. The painting, Mr. Speaker, costed the country $30,000. $30,000. Mr. Speaker, then they wanted a custom joinery, a coffee station, which costed the country $12,000. And if it wasn't bad enough that the painting cost $30,000, they paid $35,000 to install the painting, Mr. Speaker. This is it. This is the legacy of the member for Diego Martin Northeast. So when the member wants to tell us about reckless and wild spending, the member knows why. The member knows why. He went in there like an emperor without clothes, begging, boasting, I am the minister of public utilities, and now the country has to pay $1.3 million, and you did not last one day. You did not survive politically one day to enjoy the expense of the taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, while they were looking for a coffee station, they were also looking for a tea station. So one, the coffee station costed us $13,000. The tea station costed us $12,000. Yes, Mr. Speaker, that is the legacy for the member for Diego Martin Northeast. And they bend their heads in shame, knowing that they told public servants, nothing for you, 0%, 4%, 1%. But they lived large like kings and queens. The member for Rima was part of that. The member for Rima was part of that. The member for Ruka Lopino was part of that. So when you want to ask us where the money will come from today, we are being asked to pay for your frivolity, for your wastage, for your corruption, Mr. Speaker, your mismanagement. And this is it in the black and white. Today, a UNC government is being asked to pay for that. And Diego Martin Northeast smiles ear to ear, knowing that once more he will ride the back of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the people of Diego Martin Northeast. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the member for St. Anne's who made a comment in the debate. The member too asked, where is the government getting the money from? And that the member then alluded that the government had the money. The member said that the government had the money and that we did not have the will to do the job. I want to remind the member that on September 8, 2024, the Trinidad Express carried a headline, Gatsby Dolly, the problem is money. The former Minister of Education told the country that the reason why they could not get the schools up to scratch, and the member for Barataria San Juan will remember this because it was a school in his constituency, St. George's College, that raw sewage and feces was running when the school flooded out. You remember that, member for Barataria San Juan? And when asked about it, the member for St. Anne's East, in her capacity of Minister of Education, when today she stands in this house and says, but there's no problem with money. We did not crash the economy. Every successive member who spoke opposite repeated the line that they did not crash the economy. But as minister on September 8, 2024, the blaring headline was Gatsby Dolly, money is the problem. And then said that she did not get the releases from the member for Diego Martin Northeast to fix the schools. So while they did not have money to fix the schools, they did not have money for WASA workers, they don't have money to put water in their taps. The member for Chaguanas East told us today they cut 18,000 food carts, putting people on the breadline. $1.3 million jump up in the air. Poof, gone. Under Diego Martin Northeast, who did not survive politically in the government. And the people of Trinidad and Tobago took him out politically from government because of the waste, mismanagement, squandermania, and dare I say corruption, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for the life of me, I cannot understand. I cannot understand how a 30 by 30 room cost the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago $1.3 million. Why it is a painting, to install the painting is costing more than the painting itself. And Mr. Speaker, I'm told that this was all done on the first day that the member entered. And it is here in the black and white. It is signed by the former permanent secretary. And the permanent secretary, the first day I went in to the Ministry of Public Utilities, told me, well, Minister, you know, all of this is new. So I thought, well, okay, all of this is new. Let's not go down that route. Not knowing, Mr. Speaker, that all of this was new, but the UNC incoming government have to pay for it. And this is not a government facility, Mr. Speaker. This is a rental building of one Faris Al-Rawi claim at 1 Alexandria Place. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, when we talk about the recusals, they were hoping that they were setting up that place so good that they were staying there to fill the pockets of the former member for San Fernando West. Mr. Speaker, I could put the country on notice today. Today, what I have shared with respect to WASA has already gone to the Honorable Attorney General. And that is why the member spoke about the AG talking about he will go to war with them. And the AG knows what he speaks about. The AG not talking out of VAPs and vacuum. The AG knows what he's speaking about because, Mr. Speaker, in every sector, whether it is in public utilities, they rushed. Mr. Speaker, in CPEP, Crow didn't get an extension for a contract. Western Rollins, not for 1 year, not for 2 years, not for 3 years, 6 years, Mr. Speaker. 6 years they extended the contract of one Western Rollins to do their political bidding on the KISO stage. But I want to tell Crow, you could sing this, you could sing that. When it's time to go, your goose cook and it's crow. Yes. So you can go and sing about that too. Go and sing about that too. Mr. Speaker, they could call me the little butcher. They could call me the member for Cuba South. They could call me whatever they want. The facts will not change the facts that the members opposite saw billions of dollars go down the drain under their tenure in critical sectors. Energy, you heard it from the Minister of Energy today. You heard it from me in public utilities. Critical areas that were redound to the benefit of people, putting water in their pipes, electricity in their homes. Mr. Speaker, that was not invested in wells. That was not invested in desalinated water. but we will have the opportunity to talk about that. Water production is up, water distribution is up. Mr. Speaker, many parts of the country are seeing water in their tap because of political will. It requires you to invest in the infrastructure, and that is what we are utilizing the IDB loans for. We are utilizing the human resource that we have inside of WASA in terms of repurposing them and getting them to more productive levels now that they have security of tenure. But Mr. Speaker, you have a government who has the political will and the support of the member for Faisabad and the Honorable Prime Minister to change the lives of the people of Trinidad and Tobago for the better. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know that many of my colleagues on this side are prepared and ready to speak. I know that they have lots more to tell this country about how this government has found Trinidad and Tobago after that former regime left us in serious difficulty. Mr. Speaker, over the last 2 Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know that many of my colleagues on this side are prepared and ready to speak. I know that they have lots more to tell this country about how this government has found Trinidad and Tobago after that former regime left us in serious difficulty. Mr. Speaker, over the last 2 long days of debate, we would have heard a substantial number of speakers speak. There was one current trend, one constant trend in the comments made by members opposite. That constant trend, Mr. Speaker, was an attempt to pin the deficit currently facing Trinidad and Tobago to the UNC. That is what they were trying to do. They sought to convince the population that the substantial deficit that we now face has nothing to do with them. Mind you, They started fiscal 2025 with a deficit, a known deficit. They did what they had to do, but the deficit they showed the country was $5.51 billion. So the PNM in government in 2025 started the fiscal 2025 with a deficit of $5.51 billion. We have now come to ask for a supplementation of $3.something billion, $3.14 billion. But you see the PNM on that side under budgeted. We have said that repeatedly and they have denied it repeatedly, Mr. Speaker. But numbers don't lie. Mr. Speaker, just a quick glance at some information provided here to me. And you'll see the trend, Mr. Speaker. I wouldn't do like one of my colleagues previously and go back to 2010 and 2008 and 2007, etc., etc., etc. Let's look at fiscal year 2023. You know what was the expenditure of the government then? $69.4 billion. Look at 2024, Mr. Speaker. $64.5 billion. But in 2025, when they came to the parliament, they came for 59.7. So while you are way upwards of 65 and $66 billion in expenditure, they knew that they were under budgeting. They deliberately did that, Mr. Speaker, so that they could fool the population into thinking that their budget was $59.7 billion, when they very well knew it was going to balloon much more than that. Mr. Speaker, early on in my presentation of this very same mid-year motion, I had indicated that the PNM administration, when they realized that their revenue streams were less than they expected, spent $1 billion less than they had budgeted. $1 billion less, and that is just in that quarter. Just in that quarter. What do you think, Mr. Speaker, happens when they spend less than they budgeted? They incurred debt, Mr. Speaker. They incurred arrears, and that is what we are being forced to come to clear up today. Several members on this side have mentioned it, and I want to highlight it before we move on, Mr. Speaker. We are here today to supplement the 2025 fiscal package. Supplement because the members opposite made commitments, hired people, took loans, and did not provide for it. What? Yes, they did worse than take loans, Mr. Speaker. They incurred expenditure. My colleague just mentioned one such example. Unfortunately, one such example that cost taxpayers $1.3 million because of the ego of the member for Diego Martin Northeast. The same member who stood there and told us on this side that he was given advice. He was given advice. Mr. Speaker, one of my colleagues said before, and I want to repeat it. We want no advice from those persons on that side. None. The member for San Fernando he too was busy giving advice. Want no advice from you all. When you had 10 years, sir, when you had 10 years to fix this country, what you did was make it exceptionally worse. We need no advice from you, sir. None, 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 none. 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 Not even the Minister of Finance was taking your advice. So I don't know what you bothering yourself about. Nobody was taking your advice. Mama. Mr. Speaker, the member for San Fernando East came completely unprepared to this parliament. The member for San Fernando East, the former junior Minister of Finance, completely lost. He stood up and commented with bravado. He said he had it on good authority that UNC had raided the HSF. This is the member for San Fernando East, having spent 5 years in the Ministry of Finance, claiming to have it on good authority that the UNC in government over the last 7 weeks.
Graciously withdrew that, Minister Finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Because he knew it was untrue then, but he still said it. He knew it was untrue then, but he still said it, Mr. Speaker, because that's the caliber of the man, that's the mark of the man. If he were not challenged, he would have left it alone, Mr. Speaker. But let me give another example, Mr. Speaker. This is the very same member. This is the very same member. You had your chance and you had nothing to say. Please be quiet. Please be quiet. Mind your business. Listen, you might learn something.
Don't be distracted. Let's continue, please. Members, can we allow the minister to continue, please, in some relative silence?
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Speaker. The same member of parliament for San Fernando East. He said last decade was the most challenging one. He said we are all, despite it being challenging, we were all in a good space. This is the same gentleman who claimed to have stimulated the small and medium-sized energy sector, the small and medium-sized enterprise sector, Mr. Speaker. This is the same gentleman who also said that the TTRA was the only solution. He repeated, the member for Diego Martin Northeast. The TTRA was the only solution. Mr. Speaker, this is the same gentleman again.
Mr. Speaker,
who on his very
48-6, please. I did not say
finish?
that. Thank you.
48-6 is imputing improper motive. If it's an inaccuracy,
Mr. Speaker, I did not say that the TTRA was the only solution for revenues. That is imputing improper motives. I'm sure I did not say that.
but I don't.
That would be
I think-
incorrect.
I think the gravamen of what you're saying, it might be an inaccurate statement, and you could ask the minister to correct the inaccuracy. Minister, if it is inaccurate, can I invite you to correct it?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member said that TTRA was the only solution to increasing revenue in this country. Correct? Mr. Speaker, ignorance is bliss for some people. Ignorance is bliss for some people. That is the very same minister, Mr. Speaker, who spent 45 minutes talking about TTRA bill a week ago, and came back here to repeat his TTRA debate, Mr. Speaker. Repeat the same, because he was totally unprepared. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the Honorable House and the national population that this was the same gentleman who stood when he was on this side of the House, stood and debated a bill for more than 15 minutes before his colleagues corrected him that he was reading from the wrong text. That is the same gentleman. And he came here unprepared as usual to repeat and rant and rave. Complete waste of time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the member for Diego Martin Northeast, again unprepared, totally unprepared. He too praised and repeated his TTRA presentation, Mr. Speaker. I seem to think that they had nothing to say. They had nothing to say, so they came to repeat their commentary. Mr. Speaker, the member for Diego Martin Northeast is the former Minister of Finance, expressed grave concern, focusing on the rating agencies that take a look at Trinidad and Tobago. Focus on the rating agencies, Mr. Speaker, willing them to downgrade Trinidad and Tobago, willing them to do so, bleating and, Mr. Speaker, these are the same gentlemen who deliberately misled the rating agencies about the readiness of the Dragon Gas deal on their watch. Mr. Speaker, rating agencies are important, you know. They are important. But you see, when you live in this country, when you sit on those sides, you're supposed to be representing citizens who put you in office. Yeah. That is who you're supposed to be representing. Your focus should be on improving the quality of lives of citizens. Your focus is on rating agencies and what they will think about you. And while you're pretending to be concerned about the rating agencies, you're calling doom and gloom onto this country. That fear-mongering may have worked before, it will not work today, Mr. Speaker. The very same member for the GORTT Northeast stood on the opposite side and asked, he wanted to know where were the new sources of oil and gas? Where were the new products that were coming in the energy sector? 7 weeks we're here, Mr. Speaker, 7 weeks we're on the side, They spent 10 years. And after 10 years, they on that side are asking us, where the new sources of oil and gas? Where the new sources of oil, of energy products, Mr. Speaker? Completely clueless. Mr. Speaker, I don't know how the population could take any one of them seriously. Not one of them. Mr. Speaker, the member for Arima and the member for San Fernando complain bitterly about current transfers and subsidies being too high. Both of them current transfers and subsidies too high. Mr. Speaker, I hope the population is paying attention to them. I hope the population is paying attention to what is important to them, what they view as too high, what they would cut if it were up to them. They would cut current transfers and subsidies, which are benefits to NGOs, to average citizens, Mr. Speaker. That is their intention. They will continue to foist punishment on the backs of citizens who can no longer afford it,
Mr. Speaker, 48-6. Once again, that is not what was said. It's a total misrepresentation.
Mr. Speaker,
imputing an improper motive. An inaccuracy is a entirely different genus of objection.
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman is saying that I said something.
I may be allowed to continue, Mr. Speaker.
Affect the quality of life of people.
Member for San Fernando East, there's a vast difference between an imputation and an inaccuracy. Overruled. Minister, please continue.
Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that he just made my point. The member for San Fernando East just made my point. Completely, totally, and absolutely clueless.
Minister, that's a little uncharitable. So withdraw the clueless part.
I withdraw the clueless, Mr. Speaker. My humblest of apologies, I withdraw completely. The gentleman simply has an absence of intellectual capacity to be in this house. Mr. Speaker, the member for St. Anne's East in her presentation insisted that there was no crash of the economy, insisted that there was no evidence of a shortfall in budgeting. Mr. Speaker, I don't know where this minister, this former minister, is from. I don't know where the member for the St. Anne's East is living. Everyone in this country knows of the true state of the economy. As a matter of fact, several members opposite, including the member for San Fernando East, specified that the last decade was one of serious difficulty. In fact, the member for Arima herself said, there's no secret that this country has had revenue challenges. And that's a fact. It has had revenue challenges because of the incompetence of those on that side, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the biggest issue that they all chanted and raved about is where the money coming from. You see, Mr. Speaker, their focus is only on spending. So they spent $600 billion, Mr. Speaker. They borrowed and spent. They spent out every cent that we collected as a country for 10 years, Mr. Speaker. They borrowed, they spent over and above what they had access to, so that we now have to come and try to find money to spend to pay off some of their debts. And this is not that we are paying off all, Mr. Speaker. It's not all that we are paying off, because they saddle us with billions more in debt that the country will be paying for years to come, Mr. Speaker, including VAT, including additional areas that we only touched, Mr. Speaker, because we simply don't have the funds to treat with it. We simply don't have the funds to treat with it, Mr. Speaker. But all they want to know is where the money is going to come from, where the money is going to come from. That is the only issue. But while they bleat about that, where the money coming from, you know, they're spending while on coffee machine, on paintings, Mr. Speaker. That's what they, but you see, that is for the population. That is for the population. Where the money going to come from? Where the money going to come from? They just want to know, Mr. Speaker, where the money is going to come from, so they will spend it. That is all they're concerned about. When they had 10 years of trying to find revenue, they spent 10 years of undermining our revenue streams in this country, Mr. Speaker. My brother from Point 14 spoke about Petrotrin. They shut it down. That was a substantial source of revenue and foreign exchange. Substantial source. The Board of Inland Revenue, they shut it down. Another substantial source of revenue. Transfer pricing. They brought legislation and ignored it completely, Mr. Speaker. That was billions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. Billions of US dollars. But where the money coming from? Where the money coming from? All their focus is on where the money comes from. Careful what you ask for, you know. Careful what you ask for, Mr. Speaker. Because there are several places money could come from. Let's start with the first one. My colleague mentioned it earlier. Cut out the P&M corruption. Cut it out. Cut it out. Over $5 billion in contracts have been awarded per year by members on that side, ministers of the P&M administration. $5 billion of contracts awarded by P&M ministers to people and companies in open breach of the procurement regulations, Mr. Speaker. No projects identified, no checks and balances, no monitoring, no assessment if work was done. It was a free-for-all. $5 billion, Mr. Speaker. If they had simply followed procurement, if we cut just that illegal activity out, Mr. Speaker, we would not have to be here today.
48-6, Mr. Speaker. Should rescind it, Mr. Speaker. He has made an allegation.
Mr. Speaker, careful, young man. Just be careful with what you say. You be very careful what you say. Pick on somebody your own size. Pick on somebody your own size. That is a small man.
Let's not resort to that. The minister's time is being eaten up. Let's not resort to that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. No, Mr. Speaker, the Office of Procurement Regulator.
Unless you carry on.
Mr. Speaker, has identified $5 billion in contracts.
Are you invoking? When I stand, everyone sit, please. Port of Spain South, there's no need to resort to that. You can make your point in a far more gracious manner than that.
Stand or sit when you speak.
No.
I will not take instruction from you.
Can I hear your objection on the standing order upon which you rely?
55(1)A, Mr. Speaker. That is the standing order on which I stand to object.
And which part of it? A?
A, particularly the first three phrases ending with insulting or offensive word or language or unparliamentary expressions, particularly towards the member San Fernando.
Okay. Minister of Finance, it's late and I think there's an easy solution to all of this. Minister of Finance, amidst the shouting, I did not hear exactly what you said. In the same way, there was an allegation made against the member for Port of Spain North last week. I did not hear it. Can I ask you to search your conscience? If you said something objectionable, please withdraw it. Apologize. It is late. Let us move on. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Office of Procurement Regulator
Mr. Speaker,
identified $5 billion.
I will not be threatened by the member for Pfizer.
$5 billion.
I will not be
In
threatened.
which, $5 billion, Mr. Speaker. $5 billion in corrupt contracts that were awarded during the term of the People's National Movement in government. In 1 year, $5 billion. Mr. Speaker, if that had been cut out, Mr. Speaker, we would not have to be here today. $5 billion, Mr. Speaker. I told you all be careful what you ask for. Mr. Speaker, we were talking about a tax gap. They like to talk about this tax gap of $10 billion, Mr. Speaker. And while we are talking about the tax gap, while they raise the issue of a $10 billion loss in potential revenue to this country, what they did is sabotage the one agency which could have collected that tax gap. And stand here today to say when we removed the TTRA, we lost this country $10 billion. Mr. Speaker, the TTRA under that administration had been in existence and pursued for 10 years, Mr. Speaker, and collected not 1 cent. It is the Board of Inland Revenue still today that is collecting revenue. So you see this $10 billion, there's sabotage of the BIR, there's sabotage of the Board of Inland Revenue just to victimize and sabotage workers,
Mr. Speaker, 48-6.
The way this debate has gone, I will allow it. It's all contextual. Minister of Finance, move on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they decimated the Board of Inland Revenue. They removed substantial staffing to the point where the Board of Inland Revenue was struggling to collect revenues, tax revenues in this country. That $10 billion tax gap that they spoke about, Mr. Speaker, became a $20 billion tax gap because of their actions, Mr. Speaker. Can you imagine today, Mr. Speaker, that the Board of Inland Revenue does not have sufficient investigative capacity to pursue tax breakers and tax evaders in this country? What kind of person, what kind of government, those on those side represented, Mr. Speaker, what kind of person are they when they would sabotage the revenue stream of this country and then come to impose taxation on people and telling us now about tax gap? They facilitated this tax gap, Mr. Speaker. Those are only two so far. $5 billion in the procurement regulator, by the procurement regulator, and $10 billion in the tax gap, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I go one more. There are several members tonight and on the previous occasion who highlighted billions of dollars in corrupt activity, billions of dollars in corrupt activity that took place under the former regime, Mr. Speaker. If we cut all of that out, Mr. Speaker, we find ourselves with billions still left to spend. We do not have to be in this position today. We are in this financial crisis of a position today because of the total recklessness of those members opposite. It is almost as if they have a passionate dislike for the population of this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General, and that is why they don't like the Auditor General. The Auditor General, Mr. Speaker, found $33 billion in missing money. Money not verified, not brought to account, not seen by auditors. You want, Mr. Speaker, they want to know where the money coming from? All we have to do All we have to do is stop the set of corruption that the people's national movement made endemic in this country, that took money from taxpaying citizens, Mr. Speaker. That's all we need to do. Because, Mr. Speaker, that is where revenue will come from. My colleague, the Minister of Energy, told you about a 10% increase in energy production, gas and oil production, Mr. Speaker. That too is where revenue will come from. Mr. Speaker, those on the opposite side want to know where we're going to do, which projects we're going to do that will generate revenue. Mr. Speaker, the member for Siparia for the last decade has stood in this very house and time after time after time have identified specific projects that can generate revenue. I recommend one of my colleagues, Mr. Gogaman, is it? Mr. Gogaman? Mr. Gogaman, Mr. Speaker, there's somebody who is very familiar with the use of Google and made continuous reference on it. I want to recommend that that gentleman who seems to be so inclined towards Googling to go and search for the UNC manifesto, Mr. Speaker. The Chaguaramas Yacht and Boat Building Hub to turn Chaguaramas into the Caribbean's go-to yard for yacht maintenance, refits, high-value boat building, capturing foreign exchange from 50,000 transiting vessels each year. For Tobago, the Tobago Cruise Ship Marina and Duty-Free Port, we will build a full-service cruise marina at Plymouth, designate Tobago duty-free, and put in retail bunkering and entertainment to spend from the regional cruise. Mr. Speaker, Carnival City, Mr. Speaker, Medical Tourism Hospital, Sport Tourism Revival, National Sports Industry and Export Services, Education tourism, sport tourism, health tourism, medical tourism, Mr. Speaker, plus cultural tourism, Mr. Speaker. Those are all low-hanging fruit, Mr. Speaker. They just have no ideas. None of them. 10 years, Mr. Speaker, and all a bunch of individuals who could not pick up a laptop, a phone, or a basic device, or go to school and ask some primary school or secondary school student to do a little Google search to see what some ideas may be, Mr. Speaker, that they could use to develop the country. They could not come to this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, and read a little bit or listen a little bit. Instead, they listen not to hear, not to learn, Mr. Speaker, but to criticize. That is the only option, Mr. Speaker, of those members opposite. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, they are there and we are here. That is why the country rejected their incompetence and chose a government led by the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissessar with a vision she has been trying to show those members on the opposite side for a decade. Mr. Speaker, there's so much more to say. So much more to say, Mr. Speaker. I could go one by one. Mr. Speaker, I just want to treat with one issue that came to my hand today. The member for St. Anne's East, insisted. The member for St. Anne's East insisted that there was no shortage. The member for Diego Martin Northeast insisted that there were no arrests. Mr. Speaker, I have before me a letter from One Caribbean Media Limited. And I have I hold no brief for anybody. This is just a claim. Dear Honorable Minister, request for support in settling aged receivables. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'd like to read a couple of lines on this. Mr. Speaker, it is dated 15th of May, 2025. Yeah.
Your regular time is up. I'm advised by my clerk that since you're moving reply, you may have a 15 minutes extra. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and Ma'am Clerk. Thank you very much. Again, the letter from One Caribbean Media Limited. Dear Honorable Minister, request for support in settling age receivables. I wish to take this opportunity to extend warm congratulations to you on your recent appointment as Minister of Finance and to wish you every success in this important role. I am writing to request your assistance in settling a significant amount of aged receivables owed to the Trinidad Express newspapers. It's ironic I'm reading this. Owed to the Trinidad Express newspapers by several state agencies, a matter previously brought to the attention of your predecessor. I don't know if that's the former member, that's the former minister or the former minister, but a matter previously brought to the attention of your predecessor and several cabinet colleagues, that is his cabinet colleagues. Despite prior engagement and partial progress through reconciliations and limited payments, the majority of balances remain unpaid. Please see attached summary of aged receivables with a total outstanding balance of $2,536,775.31. Mr. Speaker, they provided a breakdown. Recipient, the Honorable Simon de Nobrega. Net balance, $37,424.90. Recipient, the Honorable Stuart Young, Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. Net balance outstanding, aged balance outstanding, $91,370.16. Recipient, the Honorable Donna Cox. Net balance $169,115.38. Recipient, Mr. Maurice Sweet, Office of the Prime Minister. Net balance outstanding $51,165.01. Recipient, the Honorable Rohan Sinan and Ministry of Works and Transport. Net balance outstanding or age balance outstanding $260,596.01. Mr. Speaker, it goes on. Recipient, the Honorable Colm Imbert, Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Northeast, $1,278,740.82. Recipient, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Terence Lial Singh. Well, that would be exceptionally expensive coffee. The Minister, Mr. Speaker, recipient, the Honorable Terence Lial Singh, Ministry of Health, $648,363.03. Mr. Speaker, these are aged receivables owed to one company that have now become arrears that this government has to find money for because that government there refused to. They refused to. The total here, Mr. Speaker, is $2,536,775.31 owed to one company. And this is just one, Mr. Speaker. There are multiple versions of this. Multiple versions still coming to the Ministry of Finance up to today. Still coming to the Ministry of Finance up to today. I'm being advised TTT and others, Mr. Speaker. Millions and millions and millions and millions still coming, Mr. Speaker, of arrears incurred by members opposite with no attempt being made at that time to pay, Mr. Speaker. Instead, they are hoping that we on this side will find the money to pay their bills. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore hypocritical for any member on the opposite side to challenge any one of the payments we are being made here today. We have been forced to make here today because they know very well that we are now having to pay their bills because they refuse to pay their bills, Mr. Speaker. Coffee and newspaper and tea and paintings. Mr. Speaker, those opposite live the life. In the last decade, Mr. Speaker, on the backs of citizens of this country, from the pockets of citizens of this country, the government of the day, the PNM administration, were able to extract revenue. And they live large. And today, we are still paying as a government and as a country for their excesses, Mr. Speaker. There was one comment made by the member for San Fernando for Diego Martin West. One comment that is worthy of note. Only one comment. The rest was not relevant. His comment was, and this is a lesson for those on the opposite side, the time for secrecy is over. That is the only sensible thing he said. And Mr. Speaker, he's very right. You see, the time for secrecy is over because we on this side believe in transparency, accountability, Mr. Speaker, and effective governance. Three things that those members on the opposite side have no clue about doing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are here today to supplement the expenditure for fiscal 2025 by a total of $3,144 million, Mr. Speaker. It is heartbreaking, Mr. Speaker, to bring this to this House, especially given that it is to pay for their feeding frenzy, Mr. Speaker. It is disheartening because this is money that should have been spent on the development of Trinidad and Tobago, not to be spent on what we're having to spend now on because they failed to budget for it, Mr. Speaker. How can one explain that the government of the day, the PNM administration, took a loan and didn't cater for it in their budget? How can you consider, Mr. Speaker, that they will make an announcement in the budget, but not made a provision to pay for it, like they did, Mr. Speaker, with the school grant for children? But you see, that is the kind of recklessness, that is the kind of mismanagement, that is the kind of operation that members on the opposite side have done for 10 years, which is why we have found ourselves in difficulty, Mr. Speaker, as a country. But, Mr. Speaker, I have the greatest confidence in the people of this country. I have the greatest confidence in this government led by the Honorable Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. I am confident beyond measure, Mr. Speaker, that we have the political will, we have the capability, we have the competence, we have the experience, we have the vision, we have the plan to fix Trinidad and Tobago, to take us back into where we know we can be, Mr. Speaker. We have done it before, and we will do it again, Mr. Speaker. This is just the start. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Honorable members, the question is, be it resolved that this House adopt the report of the Standing Finance Committee of the House of Representatives for the first session 2025-2026, 13th Parliament, on the consideration of the proposals for the supplementary appropriation for the fiscal year 2025. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it.
Bills, second reading.
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that a bill entitled an act to supplement the appropriation of the sum, the issue of which was authorized by the Appropriation Financial Year 2025 Act 2024, be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, I think we have spent quite a bit of time debating the motion. I stand by every comment made by members on this side during our contribution and by my own comments, both in the introduction and in the wind-up. Mr. Speaker, with those few words, I beg to move.
Honorable members, I shall now pose the question for debate. The question is that a bill entitled an act to supplement the appropriation of the sum, the issue of which was authorized by the Appropriation Financial Year 2025 Act 2024, be now read a second time. Member for Diego Martin, Northeast.
Speaker, the Honorable Minister of Finance said he stands by everything that he has said and what his colleagues have said. Unfortunately, the member for Couva South is a stranger to the truth. While the member was speaking, I got the records with respect to the expense that the minister spoke about that he has to now pay for in terms of refurbishment works at the Ministry of Public Utilities. The Minister of Public Utilities had a long song and dance screaming at the top of his voice that I incurred a bill of $1.3 million.
48-1, I believe the member is speaking about the debate before.
No,
None of those issues were raised in this bill.
I'm speaking about what the Minister of Finance
None of
said.
those issues were raised by the Minister of Finance in this debate. This is a new debate which he cannot respond to those issues.
I'm commenting on what he said.
This is a new debate.
Member. All right. I don't, in my respectful view, I don't think you could reply to the statement on the debate on the previous debate. This debate is strictly limited to the bill. So,
Mr. Speaker, with due respect, the Minister of Finance opening words in this debate was he stood by everything said by his colleagues and by himself in the previous debate. That's what I'm responding to. He said he stood by it. He said he stood by it.
48-1, standing by it has not been raised in this debate, Mr. Speaker. You cannot raise that.
Mauro, can we move on, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The cost was $160,000. The minister is a
48-1,
stranger to
Mr.
the truth.
Speaker. We have
A
no
stranger
vote
to
in
the
this
truth.
debate. This was not raised in this debate.
I think, Member for Diego Martin, you have an alternative way of dealing with that, so let's stick to this.
I have said what I have to say. He's a stranger to the truth.
Mr. Speaker, given that there is nothing, Mr. Speaker, given that there is nothing.
Minister of Finance. All right, can we have some order, please? Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, given that there has been no valuable, useful comment by members of those opposite, not just in the last 10 years, not just in the last few minutes, but in the last 10 years, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Honorable members, the question is that a bill entitled an act to supplement the appropriation of the sum, the issue of which was authorized by the Appropriation Financial Year 2025, Act 2024, be now read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Those against no say no. The ayes have it. Shara? No? Shara, where's your stand?
57 and 58 to request a division. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Your discretion on my part to refuse a division. I was just discussing the standing order with my clerk.
Yes.
And I don't think the way the standing orders are constructed, I have any residual discretion to refuse if a division is called for.
Mr. Padarth,
Yes.
Mrs. Prasad Bisasa,
Yes.
Mr. Tanku,
Absolutely, yes.
Miss John,
Yes.
Dr. Munilal,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Hussein,
Yes.
Miss Amin,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Maharaj,
Yes.
Miss Mohit,
Yes.
Mr. Sturge,
Yes.
Dr. Bodo,
Yes.
Dr. Dowlat,
Yes.
Dr. Ali,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Miss Benjamin,
Yes.
Mr. Sobers,
Yes.
Mr. Watts,
Yes.
Dr. Sicharan,
Yes.
Mr. Kisar,
Yes.
Mr. Elder,
Yes.
Miss Sam,
Yes.
Mr. Narayan Singh,
Yes.
Dr. Rup Narayan,
Yes.
Dr. Gosain,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Abstain.
Mrs. Beckles Robinson,
Abstain.
Mr. Imbert,
Abstain, I can't support falsehoods.
Dr. Gatsby Dolly,
Abstain.
Mr. Young,
Abstain.
Mr. Scotland,
Abstain.
Mr. Dino Brego,
Abstain.
Mr. Manning,
Abstain.
Mr. Marcel,
Abstain.
Mr. Devines,
Abstain.
Mr. Birchwood,
Abstain.
Mr. Romaine,
Abstain.
Mr. Speaker, the results of the division are as follows. 28 members voted for, no members voted against, and 12 members abstained.
Bill is passed. So the results are 28 in favor of the bill, 0 against, and 12 abstentions. The bill is passed. The second.
A bill entitled An Act to Supplement the Appropriation of the Sum, the issue of which was authorized by the Appropriation Financial Year 2025 Act 2024.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 87-2, I beg to move that a bill entitled An Act to Supplement the Appropriation of the Sum, the issue of which was authorized by the Appropriation Financial Year 2025 Act 2024, be now read a third time and passed.
Members, the question is that a bill entitled An Act to Supplement the Appropriation of the Sum, the issue of which was authorized by the Appropriation Financial Year 2025 Act 2024, be now read a third time and passed. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it.
Entitled, An Act to Supplement the Appropriation of the Sum, the issue of which was authorized by the Appropriation Financial Year 2025 Act 2024.
The House.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House now be adjourned to Friday, June 27th at 1:30 p.m. And we serve notice on members of the opposition that we will be doing the Prime Minister's Pension Amendment Bill 2025.
Honorable members, the question is that this House do now adjourn to Friday, June 27th at 1:30 p.m. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to Friday, June 27th at 1:30 p.m.